Hello, and welcome to the video Writing from Your Notes. If you're watching this video, it tells me that you've completed your research and you're ready now to start taking the information from your notes and putting them into a paragraph form. Now, sometimes when we're writing from our notes where we have a list of bulleted information, it can be difficult to write a paragraph without just listing all of the facts that you just wrote. But you don't want your paragraph to sound like it's just a list of facts. So today we are going to look at some ways on how to write from your notes while making the writing sound more interesting. So we're taking our bullets from our papers and we're turning them into paragraphs. Let's start off by taking a look at the notes that I have. I started making a list of some information about homes and villages. And my section that I'm going to focus on today is just about the middle colonies. So my paragraph today is just about the middle colonies. Take a second and read over the bullets that I have so far. So you see that I start to explain what the homes look like and other materials or furniture that is in the homes. And then I begin to explain a little bit about what the Dutch introduced. So that's what I'm going to start with as I work on my paragraph for middle colonies. So let's take a look at some tips that I want to share with you. You want to add phrases or sentences to make your writing sound smoother. You want to use transitions to move it along. That might be words like also, for example, or if you're explaining a sequence, first and then or next. And you also want to try that for each bullet you have, you want to add at least one or more sentences that'll give more details to your reader. And they also might explain a word or a phrase that your reader wouldn't know if they didn't do the research like you did. So I want to show you the beginning of my paragraph and what I've started so far about the middle colonies. And then we're going to add to it as we go. In the middle colonies, colonists built log cabins for their homes because there was a lot of wood. They used this wood to also build tables, chairs, and stools made of slabs and wooden pegs. When the Dutch came to the middle colonies, they introduced fancier homes. So if I go back to my notes, you can kind of see where all of this information came from and what I've added. So I started off within the middle colonies and then I explained the log cabins because there was a lot of wood. I then used a transition and said they also used this wood, and I added this bullet with my examples of furniture. Then I talked about how the Dutch introduced fancier homes. Now, if you notice, I didn't get to this part yet about the 1.5 stories or the front porch or the door that they included that had half of it cut. So that's my next goal. I'm going to explain these Dutch houses a little bit more. And notice that my 2 bullets here are being turned into multiple sentences. I also was reading about this door cut in half, and I didn't really understand it. And so I had to learn more about these Dutch doors. Now that I've seen pictures, I can explain more about it in my writing. So I do want to talk about what they look like. And that's something I'm going to add to my paragraph. So in this next sentence, I'm going to start explaining about these homes. These homes were 1.5 stories high. They also had a front porch. Again, I'm using a transition. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to add some more, and then we'll look at how I added it. Okay, let's take a look at what I've added since the last time we talked. So I started to explain how the homes were 1.5 stories high, and they also had a front porch. But then when I started researching about what the door looked like and why it was, or how it was cut in half, I wanted the reader to really understand that. So I said the Dutch introduced a unique type of door. The door was cut in half in the middle. Sorry about that. So they could just open the top, just the bottom, or both the top and the bottom at the same time. If I go back to my notes, you'll notice that I didn't have anything about that when we were talking about the door. But that's how I'm taking my notes and adding more into my paragraph. I had to find out more about the door, and that's where I added it in. The last thing I want to do is talk about this bullet about how the beds were hidden in the walls and you could open them up. And I'm wondering, I want to explain to my reader why that might be. So I did some research and I couldn't find exactly why. However, I have a feeling I know why. When I was doing my research, I found out that a lot of the rooms or the homes were only one room. That's how they started off. And I think they wanted to save space. Even though I don't know that for sure, I'm going to use the word probably when I explain this. And I'm going to say that I think they did this because they wanted to save space. I'm going to pause the video again and add my sentences about the beds hidden in the walls, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Let's take a look at the last two sentences that I added. So I took one bullet from my yellow paper and I turned it into two sentences. I said, also, the beds in the rooms were hidden in the walls so they could be opened. This was probably used to save room since the houses were small. I think it's important that I'm using that word probably because even though I'm making an educated guess and I do think it makes sense, I don't know for sure, and I want my reader to know that. So I took my notes, which were 5 bullets, and I turned those 5 bullets into an entire paragraph where I used transitions, I added more details, and I explained things that my reader might not know. So this is what you're going to try to do now. Take one section from your notes and try to write a paragraph. Add at least, or try to add, sorry, words or sentences for each bullet. That's how you're going to know that you're turning it into a paragraph and not a list of notes. Good luck and enjoy.